Hey everyone, Mr. Devil here, Kenny Danisco, three-time Stanley Cup champion of the New Jersey Devils. And you're listening to the Uncle Puckers New Jersey Devils podcast with Chris, Dan, Bobby, and Tony, the Uncle Puckers. Let's go Devils!
Well, we are the Uncle Puckers, except it's no Bobby today. Just Dan, Tony, and myself, Chris. How you guys doing today? In these hot-ass dog days of summer?
It's a hot, humid one today in New Jersey. It sure is, you know.
66 here.
66?
Yeah. 66.
Does it ever get hot in Lithuania? Like, if it's not now, when is it?
I think it was like 85. It was almost 90 like a couple weeks ago. We only had like really 2 hot days this year, so.
Wow.
But it's like this. Our summers are beautiful. The winters are what get you. So.
Yeah. The rest of this week is supposed to be brutal hot, like the high 90s starting tomorrow, and then I think it's supposed to drop like almost 100 on Saturday and then drop to 80 on Sunday. So.
Yeah. We'll see if we get this in without losing power because they said we're under thunderstorm warning.
So my wife is coming home from work, and she said she got hammered. I mean, she said
She's
the
drunk?
storm was fucking brutal. She's
Oh,
so
I thought you
drunk.
meant she was
She's
drunk.
driving. Yeah,
She shouldn't drive. I expect better from her.
I tell her all the time. She doesn't listen.
Yeah, well.
She's a fucking, it's really...
Don't tell me how to drive,
Then
mister.
she'll fucking scratch you with the keys, get the fuck away from
I'll
me.
tell you when I've had enough. Right? Well, that's just my house.
It.
Yeah.
I'm still going to go out, Karen. But she said that the storm was really bad. So, yeah, it's coming. So hopefully we don't lose power. That would really suck.
Yeah.
No, I was actually showing my wife, I think it was yesterday, we were watching on YouTube some footage of like Seaside, but for like 2 weeks ago, someone had filmed themselves walking up and down the boardwalk. That place is, it's just changed so much because I was there so last time I was there right before Sandy. I was I think about a month before Sandy I was there. And then I left back to Florida, but man, it's crazy. I never saw like the sawmill.
Well, Sandy, demolished a lot of stuff. Yeah, some of it was rebuilt, and then we had the magical fire, which was, of course, some kind of insurance job. I'm assuming they're like, hey, this Sandy thing is kind of working out for us. Let's have a fire on top of it, or it was a legit fire. I don't know. I'm a legitimate businessman.
If it was one person that decided that they were going to try to do that little fire thing for insurance money, it didn't work because, well, it might have worked for them, but it also took out, half of the fucking boardwalk.
Yeah.
Like the entire south side of that pier went up like a fucking matchbook, man.
Yeah.
It was.
They never did quite put all the stuff back on that street side of it. It's kind of open, or they have like weird shit, like what is it, like a splash area? It looks like a theme park more than Seaside.
They're trying to make it more family now. A lot of these bars, like some people where I work, they said they were down there.
Bring your kids to the bar now.
10 o'clock at night on the boardwalk, and like half the bars were closed.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. It's kind of true all over. My wife and I were talking about this a lot. Like places around here don't stay open as late as like when you were here, Tony. Things were everything open to like 2 and stuff. No anymore, not anymore.
I just saw they put a curfew for people in Seaside and Ortley Beach for it was for people 18 and under by 10 o'clock at night.
Because we have it here.
There's been problems, they said, I guess, on the boardwalk the last.
We've had a curfew. We've had a curfew here for years.
I think at the boardwalk they had like one of those I don't know, if something gets on social media that so and so is going to be here, and then everybody floods in.
Fucking flash mobs.
It's kind of like a flash mob situation, but you know what? Even apart from that, Tony, like the young people, they don't go out to the bars to hang out anymore. Like not the same way we did. It's just weird. They go and they meet up other ways, And
I noticed you guys would know better than me now, because when I went back there, I was younger when I was there working on that place in those areas, and I always thought the pizza was really killer on the boardwalk, right? And I went back. And I was like, man, maybe, the boardwalk pizza isn't the best, No. Chris, you're a pizza guy. What's the best, like in Tom's River area, what would you say is the best pizza around there?
This is a very Domino's. Oh my God.
Domino's.
He always says this.
They had a Domino's in Poland.
He always says this. I've heard him say this to people before. Now, anybody knows Chris would know that this is a ridiculous answer from a guy who knows what he's talking about on the subject. It's like a car guy telling you like the best car ever is a Yugo or something. Like it's not true.
But there's a reason that I will always go and say Domino's.
It's to fuck with people, I think. I mean, to mess
it's not
with
to
people.
fuck with people.
No?
I'll tell you what it is. Domino's is on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best pizza you ever ate, 1 being complete and total dog shit. Domino's is a solid 5. It's right in the middle. It's not unedible.
I know what you're going to say. You respect their consistency. Is that what you're saying?
That's the key. Because I'll go to a pizzeria and I'll get a fucking pie, and it's outstanding. And I'm like, this is a fucking really good pie. And then next week I'll get it, and it's unedible.
What are you paying for a pie now, Chris?
What?
What are you paying for a pie now there?
Oh, God, it's probably, a regular plain pie, probably like around $17-18.
Yeah, unless it's on special.
I mean, I know the Sawmill, I think they charge something like almost $30 for one of their large pies now.
Yeah.
But when I worked there way back in the day, it was $10 for a large plain pie with a free pitcher of soda.
Yeah.
With it.
And if you got a slice, it was $1.25 for a slice and a drink
with the orange soda.
Yeah.
But, okay, so like as far as pizza places around here, you know, there's I find that like there's a place in Lavalette, Lenny's Pizza. They make a really good pie. I like them. Over on the island, though, there's not too many that I really like. All of them are like the Sawmill now, and Three Brothers is okay. Maruka's is okay. As far as like in the mainland, it's hit or miss, man. You get a fucking one night it's good, one night it's bad. Kind of depends on who makes it.
Even the consistency thing is like kind of more gradual. I understand what you're saying, but the consistency I find is like I know what you mean, but it's over the course of months. Like a place will be good for a while, and then like, what the fuck happened? They were good for like months. What happened? And you know what happened? They changed people. They changed maybe ingredients, but something happened.
Mostly it's the people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people don't realize, that the person making your pizza definitely depends on the quality of the pie.
Right.
You know, so it's like there's times that I'm not going to name the place where I usually get my pie up the road here, but when I walk in, there's one dude, when I know he's working, pie's outstanding. Otherwise, it's good, but it's not.
So that's good. You know your place. So what do you do? Do you like call him up and be like, dude, is Gary there today?
It's hit or miss. And if I walk in and he's there to pick up, I'm happy. And
if he's not, you leave?
If not, he's getting
Did you hear any thunder, Dan?
No.
I just heard a loud thunder.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think it might be coming. But I guess we'll talk a little bit about our draft show. So we did our draft. All of our teams
This was
are actually
big undertaking for us. We've never done something like this.
No,
this is
it was
like
fun.
It was a good time, but that was a lot of players we went through. I was kind of like shot at the end. Was that exhausting for you guys, or is it just me?
I agree. Yeah.
I was exhausted.
I really appreciate Fitzgerald and any GM so much more because I realized the second half of my team, it was like a monkey chose them. Like I could have done it with a dartboard. I stopped putting lines together. I didn't have players at the tips of my fingers. Right, you and me, Tony. We were like and. We took forever. We're like, I don't know, give me anybody. I can no longer think of players. I'm out, you know,
and
which is crazy. But you were on the spot, you know.
We even kind of did off air a little supplemental draft because we realized that we really kind of screwed up at the end.
I saw this, and if we were actually playing each other, I might call shenanigans on this. You guys started picking people who weren't in the fucking draft. What happened?
I had to switch. No, they were in the draft.
No,
but no. There was a couple names. Where did you get these names from? Like, I think, Chris, you chose Bombardier?
Yeah, I took Bombardier.
Wait, when did you say Bombardier? Was that earlier?
No. I said it through a group text. So you picked 3 in a row at one point.
Okay.
At the end.
I was just
we were all kind
taking
of
advantage
shot,
of the
and
space
it was
given
completely... I listened back. It was completely my fault. I should have, knew. I was writing all down.
I honestly felt like something was wrong, but I was like,
right.
Whatever, you know?
So you took 3 in a row, which then gave you the extra guy and shorted me.
So I kind of win. I kind of win automatically on this draft.
Right. So when I put my team together, I realized I was short a D-man.
Yeah.
So, and that's when I was texting, and I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to take Brad Bombardier and throw him on because I just needed a D-man.
If this happened in an NHL draft, I don't know if they would remedied it the way you did. I think you might just be out of luck. And
I think we would. But it was for this exercise. We all needed full, complete teams.
Okay.
So it was allowed. But they are all up now on Twitter, so please take a look at them. Team Bob, Team Tony, Team Dan, Team Chris. And let us know who had the best one. So far, there's been a few comments about Dan team. They like that. Tony's team was doing good. Me and Bobby, I don't think I've gotten many feedback yet.
I will say that my team, I'll tell you what, I don't want to sit here and like toot my own horn, but I liked the first half of my team. I did. I really liked it because I got so lucky getting number 1 pick. Building from Marty out is kind of like how I've been thinking my whole life. And so that was like, I'm really confident and happy with like the whole defense for the most part. And really 2 of my lines. The other 2 lines, I'm like, I could have done a better job because I just didn't really prepare for that.
You're like Lou Lamoriello's love child.
Oh yeah, well we look alike, and that's I'm very proud of that. Me, Lou, and a couple aliens from Men in Black.
Now, if you go on to Twitter, you can see the teams are up there. So we have my team. I'll go through all our lines real quick. So I got Jack Hughes, and he's centering Brendan Shanahan and Stefan Riche. Line 2, Aaron Broughton, centering Jesper Bratt, John McClain. Scotty Gomez, centering Clarkson and Yager. Dougie Gilmore, centering Cam Jansen and Grant Marshall. For the defenses, we have Fetisov and Sorelli, Green, Marino, Salvador, and Bombardier. And my goalies are Sean Burke with Chris Terreri backing them up.
That's pretty solid, Chris. Pretty solid.
I like the team, but
the
fourth line, I maybe would have gone with, if I could do it over again, I think I would have rather had Travis Zajac centering my fourth line over Dougie Gilmore.
But he wasn't even available to you, was he? By the time you got to your fourth line?
Right,
I took Zajac.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? So, you did get all your centers early, Chris. So
I did. I wanted to build out through the middle.
Remember that. Yeah.
If you go, Jack Hughes, Aaron Broughton, Scott Gomez, Doug Gilmore, that's not bad for 4 centers.
No.
And Team Bobby, he's got Kirk Muller centering Taylor Hall and Zach Parisi. He's got Nico Heischer centering Timo Meyer and Brian Giunta.
Wow.
Bobby Holik centering Jeff
Brian
Friesen.
Giunta on that line. I like that. Timo on one side, Brian on the other. That's what Bobby went with. One of them's got a really big guy, the other one's got a small guy.
See, Giunta can just hide behind Meyer.
Yeah.
And then just pop out and score a goal.
I didn't even know he was out there. Yeah, he popped out of his jersey.
I like this line of Bobby's. His third line I really like. Yeah. I like Bobby Holik and centering Jeff Friesen and Jamie Langenbrunner.
Yeah, you kind of wanted to see them play together like that, I don't know when they've ever played together.
I don't think they were ever on a line together.
Not like that. But,
I know maybe Friesen and Langenbrunner were together for a little bit.
I think that's true. And maybe Langenbrunner and Holik, but I doubt it.
I don't know if I agree 100% with taking Dawson Mercer and moving him to his original center spot. He really hasn't played center a whole lot for this team in the last couple of years, but Bobby did. He put Dawson Mercer in the middle on the fourth line for Blake Coleman and Steve Thomas as his wingers. His defense, he's got Tommy Albaline and Dougie Hamilton, Merrick Zidlicki, Sammy Vatanen, Adam Larson, Johnny Oduya, and Corey Schneider and Keith Kincaid are his goalies. Then we move to Team Dan. You got Adam Henrique centering Zella Pukin and Peter Sakura. I like that line.
I do. I like that line.
Dinah Zubris. I like this line a lot. Dinah Zubris centering Dave Andrechuk and Claude Lemieux.
That's a line you don't want to play against, man. They're going to hurt you. They're
going to hurt you. John Madden centering with Jay Pandolfo and Billy Guerin.
In the end, I kept Madden and Pandolfo together. I wanted to split them up at first because they always played together.
Yeah, Bobby said you can't. You're not
I know, and I hated to listen to Bobby, but I thought about other things. I really tried to. This was like the one thing I gave a shit about. I'm like, fuck no, Bobby. I'm going to do what I want to do. And in the end, he was right, which I hate to say, but Bobby was totally right.
Then you have Dennis Peterson, who was a tough dude, with Miles Wood and Christoph Oliwa. It's a tough line.
That line is not going to give you an easy time.
No. Brian Rafalski, Scott Niedermeyer as your first pairing on D. Paul Martin, Lyle Odeline second. And then you have Bruce Driver and Will Butcher. And then Dan just got one goalie because he brought Brodeur and doesn't need much more. I kind of can't disagree with that.
That's it. Yeah.
Then we go to Team Tony. Down the middle, line 1, Jason Arnott. He's centering Patrick Elias and Alex McGillney. I like that. Elias and Arnott have definitely had magic.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Zajac centering Ila Kovalchuk and Pat Verbeek.
That's wild. I don't know what to expect from that one.
Pat Verbeek is so under. You think his best year with the Devils, he had 46 goals, right? He almost had I think he had 70-something points, a shitload of penalty minutes. Pat Verbeek was a hell of a player. I mean,
yes, he was.
And Kovalchuk, as much as I can't stand, what happened at the end of the day,
Super
when he
talented.
went on fire, man, that son of a bitch was a game changer.
Yeah, definitely. But I like how you got the mix there with the finesse and the power, and it's a pretty good line.
Then you got your third lines. It's kind of a good third center in line. Brian Ralston with Sergei Brelin and Tom Chorsky. And then you got Bobby Carpenter with Mike Peluso and Randy McKay. Your defense is Colin White and Wolanin, and then Scott Stevens and Luke Hughes, Ken Danico and Kasatonov, and your goalies are Vanacek and Johan Hedberg as his backup. So those are all of our teams, 80 players, all through Devils from the entire history of the Devils. We took our draft and we tried to put the best players where we could. So yeah, definitely hop on the Twitter or the YouTube channel. Let us know exactly who's got the best team and where are we going from here.
I am curious who's got the youngest team, who's got the oldest team when we average it out. I haven't done that yet. I haven't looked at it. But I have a feeling my team's kind of old. Tony's is kind of old. And you and Bobby, your teams are a little younger than ours. I'd like to see that. Now, by the way, that doesn't factor in if you're thinking who's playing who. But what you got to ask yourself if you're thinking which team do I like better is these players at their peaks.
Yes.
With the Devils, not with other teams.
Nope, with the Devils.
You got a Yager, right?
Yeah.
You don't get Yager at his peak. You got him when he's with the Devils,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
And, so you think about the best year that player had with the Devils, and that's how he's going to perform for you. And there's probably like a mathematical answer to this, but I'm more interested in the chemistry, the what ifs, the stuff we'll never know. Like when you have this player playing with that player, would they be as successful? It's a cool, fun experiment.
I like that line that Yager with Scott Gomez centering Yager and David Clarkson.
But if you had Yager in his
Really
prime,
fun line.
I think Yager goes from where you picked him to first if you had him in his prime, because the whole draft I was thinking, man, if you had Yager, like if that was the case, like that guy has to go like number 1 or 2. I mean, how does he not?
What's pretty cool about this whole thing, I got an echo now.
Yeah, me too.
But if you look at the whole thing, that's the whole point. I thought it was very cool, is that these players at their prime, most of them were with the Devils. I mean, we don't have too many people in Yager's situation where you're like, because if you were the Rangers, right, this makes a huge difference to you, doesn't it? And how many of those guys, the Ranger fans would be like, we had Gretzky. You did not have L.A., you did not have Edmonton.
If you have a line together of Wayne Gretzky, Eric Lindros, and Jaromir Jagr all for the Rangers, it's not that. It's a third line.
It's not a good line, but when they played for them, that's absolutely true. And so, but I was kind of impressed that when you looked at all those players, I can't think of really another one off the top of my head. You tell me if I'm wrong. That you would rather have the former version of that player. Maybe Gilmore. Maybe.
Definitely, I would say Gilmore was definitely, because he was we got him at a trade deadline. He only played that year, and I think we were bounced in like the first round, and then he just
but he was pretty effective that year. He was something to watch.
He was good on faceoffs.
I'm sure it wasn't the peak of his career though, so that's a point well taken. But I mean, we drafted 80 something guys, right? Whatever it was, and that's amazing when you think about it. I mean, most Devils had their peak years with the Devils.
I mean, there a lot of them did. There are a couple, like Joe Nieuwendyk was not the Joe Nieuwendyk.
That's a good one.
Had him. But you can go and look at a guy like Alexander McGillney, and he played great for us for the years that he was with us. I mean, he was right up there with his, production-wise, the same as when he was with Buffalo. He was definitely.
I gotta believe it. It's something to do with the Devils too, like running their organization a little differently. Because I just can't imagine certain other teams, and I'll just throw the Rangers, like we said, but others too, that you wouldn't be like, because they were like name chasers rather. They're looking for the name. They were always looking for the big name. Devils didn't really work that way very often. They weren't doing that.
And guys like Joe Nieuwendyk came and decided, you know what, I can play defense. I'll do whatever it takes for the chance to win another cup. And it worked.
Right.
It worked for a guy like Joe Nieuwendyk, guy like Dave Andreychuk. Yep. Dave Andreychuk wasn't asked to do the shit that he was doing in his younger days, but he was more of a bottom six guy. I think he was on the third line for a lot of it, right?
Yes.
When he was playing with us.
That's
and
true.
Scored some huge goals for us and won his cups. And I mean, I loved Dave Andreychuk.
Dave Andreychuk has a statue outside of Amalie Arena in Tampa. I mean, he has.
Does he really?
He does. He has a statue out there with the cup.
I had no idea.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I saw an article I wanted to actually talk about. I think this is a very kind of goes towards the draft and what we're talking about. It was a very cool article. I haven't read it all because I kind of wanted to do it with you guys. So this was written off of Pucks and Pitchforks by Jonathan Bailey. And it's 5 New Jersey Devil legends who would dominate today's NHL. Kind of a cool...
I read this.
Cool thing. Oh, you read it? Okay, so he writes here, just read the beginning. The current New Jersey Devils squad is set to dominate the NHL for the next decade.
Wow.
But how would some of the franchise's legends fare in today's game? We take a look at 5 unsung heroes who would adapt best to the NHL in the present day. And he starts off, number 1, Bruce Driver.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Maybe not the guy that would jump out of your first...
I was surprised to see that name first.
First name that would jump off. So
he was so huge, though. He was such a leader, with the Devils.
Yes,
it
he
really
was there
is.
from the beginning. He joined the Devils as a 21-year-old in their second year in New Jersey in 1983. He stayed with the team until 95 when he left to go play for the fucking Rangers.
Yeah.
Driver spent 11 years with the New Jersey Devils, including a year as the team's captain in 91, and then Stevens took the role. Driver was once the Devils' all-time leader amongst defensemen in assists before Stevens and Niedermeyer eventually broke it. He won the Cup in 95 with them, but he writes here that he left right after. He spent 3 years with the Rangers. And at his best, Bruce Driver was a smooth skating defenseman with a knack for setting up plays and doing things the right way. Even as a smaller guy in his era at 6 foot, Driver had 3 seasons when he scored 50 or more points and paved the way for the prototypical defensemen of today's NHL to be what they are. On a team that prioritized defense, Driver set the standard for what a two-way defenseman should be. Responsible and smart at both ends of the ice, that's a skill set that would dominate today.
That's
you guys
very
agree
true.
with that?
I really do, and I'll tell you what. Until Niedermeyer joined the team, Driver was our scoring defenseman.
Yep.
That first year, I guess Stevens was doing a little bit more scoring than he fell into as he, settled into like the role he ended up taking. But during that time, Driver was like, if you were hoping a defenseman was going to lay the bomb in, it was Driver. Niedermeyer, after a while, he probably took over that role.
I think that I agree with that. I think Bruce Driver could be a very good player in this NHL nowadays. Do you agree, Tone?
Yeah, I do agree. And it's funny. I was actually, when I was reading that, the first thing I said when I saw his name, I was like, Driver, right?
Not the guy that you would have thought of.
But he was such a good skater. That's the big difference on defensemen.
Yeah.
You want to know the truth. The big difference on defensemen, they haven't gotten any bigger. They've gotten to be better skaters.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of skaters who skated back then who wouldn't make today's game. But Bruce Driver was a very good skater.
Yeah, I was like Driver.
Again, I would not have thought about it, but as soon as I read it, I was like, you know what? He's right. I like the Bruce Driver one. We're going to stay on defense for number 2. He does say something on here that it might be a little questionable, but number 2, he has Brian Rafalski, old number 28.
Yeah.
And he writes, the first line, he says, when it comes down to it, there might not be a more underrated, underappreciated player in the history of the NHL than Brian Rafalski.
That's very true. He lived in the shadow of Niedermeyer on a team known for good defensemen. It was hard to pick him out of the crowd because it's like, the Devils have another great defenseman. Like, yeah, they did play good defense. But as an individual, he was psycho good. He was amazing.
We had great defensemen, but we really, until Rafalski came, we only had Niedermeyer that was an offensive guy that can push the puck.
Right, and could
Rafalski
really skate.
Came in
and
was like, where did this... And he came in older. I think he was 27, 28 as a rookie because he was playing in Europe.
Correct,
and he was just kind of a fucking diamond in the rough that Lou just picked out and threw this guy in. And for years, he was as solid as you can get.
Yep.
And
fast,
one of the best skaters on the team. Yes.
So good.
He was a hell of a
and he writes, it's reasonable to assume that it's because that he's underrated. A, he did not play 1,000 games, and B, he didn't make his NHL debut until age 26. I said 27 or 28, but it was 26.
Sure. Still, pretty late.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Rafalski received Norris Trophy votes 6 times in his career, but never came away with the prestigious award. Instead, Rafalski can take solace in his 3 Stanley Cup triumphs, 2 of which came with the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, he was with the Redskins.
That's where he wrapped up his career, I believe.
The Red Wings.
Red Wings.
But so he's the number 2 on here.
Yeah, that's a very good number 2. I totally agree with that.
All right, so his number 3 one. Johnny Mack. He has John McClain on this list.
Okay.
It says John McClain faded into hockey obscurity after a failed stint as New Jersey Devils head coach, among other things, but New Jersey Devil fans remember McClain as the team's first elite player who helped bring the franchise into relevancy. We all will always remember the goal against Darren Pang and Chicago in 1988, a game the Devils had to win to make the playoffs.
Make the playoffs, yeah.
And McClain scored in overtime to
Huge
give
goal.
the Devils a win.
To this day, if you go to like the greatest calls ever, if you're just learning the Devils now, go to YouTube and look for the greatest moments from the Devils. That's one of them. I mean, that's how they first made the playoffs. You know,
like Chris said, that was a half. You couldn't tie it. You had to win that game. They had to.
Yeah, if they tie, they're out of the playoffs. So it was so dramatic. It was as close as you get to like being in the Stanley Cup Finals, not being in the playoffs. It was the biggest regular season game the Devils maybe have ever been in.
Absolutely true. It was up to that time. It was the biggest game and the biggest win, and it was all on the stick of McClain. And it says here, at the peak of his abilities, McClain scored 40 goals in 3 consecutive seasons, from 88 to 91. He was a remarkably consistent finisher during his career, scoring 20 or more goals a whopping 11 times. McClain also twice received Selke votes in 95 and 96. He was a guy who was a right winger who can score goals, but he was so responsible defensively. He was a smart player.
Yeah,
he's another guy.
The first guy that got the cup in 95 after Stevens, right? He handed it to McClain.
Yeah.
And you forget that he scored 400 goals. This guy. I mean, I kind of forget this sometimes with Johnny Mack, you know? I mean, but yeah, I was...
Super steady presence for the Devils, a real leader, too.
Yeah, and I think he would flourish in this NHL. I really do. He was
I love his type of player. To me, it's like the classic player. Like, the guy's got a great nose around the net. He's smart. He's got just the right amount of skill to both look smooth and score. Like, he doesn't do those psycho crazy goals like some guy. Like, he's not a Trevor Zegras or something. Like, you know,
right.
like he doesn't score those kind of insane deke goals. He never did. But he had like that hockey goal scorer's sensibility. That's where his goals went. It had a certain amount of style to it, and that was very cool. I mean, McClain was awesome on the team.
He was one of those faces back then, right? Your Danicos, your McClains. Like, he was one of those guys that we had in the 90s.
Yeah, today's game, though, I'll tell you what, man. I think that type of player is less favored and I think it's to the worst of the league, to be honest with you. I think they're looking for players who are like super snipers or more of a deking type player, like from the young ages up. So, of course, no. Like, I'm not saying the Devils are like, we're only taking supers. I'm just saying that's how the players are growing up today. And that was not Johnny Mack's game. Johnny Mack had a more of a fluid style. I like him more to like the way Richer was a player. I like that fluid style, but I feel like it's almost on decline in today's NHL. So I wonder if he would have played.
That's what's interesting. Like, we say those guys would be good now, but would they actually be like? Would they be able to fit in now?
Because there are fashions out there of styles of play that come and go that a player may not be suited for, and you just got unlucky. Like, you might be that kind of fluid player like Johnny Mack, and you don't make it to the pros today because it's just not exactly what they're looking for. They want more of these like. They do everything by metrics now, so they measure players like 0 to 10 feet metric, like football kind of. You know, they've gone insane with this shit. So what's weird about that is that some players they maybe are picked out because of those skills and they make the game better. So I'm not saying it's wrong or anything, but it is different. And I do wonder if a player like Johnny Mack, who I wonder if his side by side metrics would match some of these specialized players today. I still loved his result. I loved his game.
Back in the 80s and 90s, you always read that they would, all the players, right after practice, right after morning skates, they'd go out and drink. They would go out for beers. Like, it was a whole different, world, man.
It was more like innate skill than training. They did do a lot of training, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But, they ran on elite skill from a young age more than the training.
And they practiced and they got themselves ready maybe 3 weeks or so before training camp. They would start getting themselves in shape. Nowadays,
365
it's a full-time job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they have the guys like Hughes and stuff. Like they
take a couple days or a week tops, and even then they keep that on the down low. I'm sure.
Now this guy I think would not only be a very good player in the league today, I think he would dominate in the league today. And I think he would be talked about in the same vein as Timo Meyer and guys of that nature, the power forwards.
Do the voice, Dan.
What's that?
Do the voice, Dan. Was Dan on the voice? Or was it you?
You're 100% right. It is Bobby Holik. And Bobby Holik.
Yeah.
Now think about this for a second. When you have a guy the size of Holik, right, who was not the best skater, he was not the fastest skater, but he had very good hands. Now, you go to a time where a guy can sit in front of the fucking net, and you can't really do the shit that you used to be able to do to him, right? You can't hack him with your 2x4 stick across the back of the fucking neck. You can't. Who's moving Bobby Holik? You know what I mean? Like, in this day and age, who's moving Bobby Holik out of the front of the net? Nobody. Bobby Holik would have been, I think, a fantastic player.
The player who plays most like Holik today, I'd say it might be Kachuk. Kachuk reminds me a lot of Holik.
Kachuk is a better.
He's got a little bit more
skill.
He got especially more finesse on beating players one-on-one, but that nose from the net and the toughness with it, I think he kind of reminds me of Holik there.
Now he writes here, I'll read this part of the article. He writes, Bobby Holik was an asset for the Devils in all areas of the ice. He did the nasty work behind the net and along the boards, got to the net to finish off plays, and played excellent defense. Holik received Selke trophies 7 times in his career and finished as high as 5th in Selke voting in 1998. In that same season, Holik finished 20th in Hart voting as he received 1 5th-place vote. For reference, Steve Yzerman earned 2 5th-place votes that year, and Nicholas Lindstrom earned 2 4th-place votes and 1 5th-place vote. Even as a grinder, Holik was immensely valuable to the New Jersey Devils. And he was a dude that, like, you saw, the best thing about Holik was, seeing him in 94, 95, right, as this 4th line, the crash line, and doing the dirty work, and how he just kind of grew and became a much better forward, a much better, more skilled guy, and moved up to the point that he scored 20, 30-something goals that one year. Was one of our biggest offensive guys. This coming from a dude that back in 94 and 95 was a 4th-line guy who was lucky to get maybe 8-9 minutes of ice time.
100%. Yeah, you know what it made me think of, too, was like today's Bobby Holik, as far as like where he ended up on the team, might have been like a Miles Wood. Now, if you look at Miles Wood, he came up and he's got scoring skill, but let's face it, he made up his way up the draft and made it to the NHL because he had size and speed too, But the difference between them, I feel like, whereas, they both had size and speed, Holik had a continuity of game and was a much more serious, quarterbacking kind of player than maybe like a Miles Wood.
Left, weren't you? When he went to the Rags, I was like, oh, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Holik was such he was a cerebral player, too. Like some players are thinkers. Mm-hmm. Holik was totally a thinker. And I remember that, in many interviews with him, you'd see, he'd give, the closest thing to a real, when you get sports answers, a lot of the hockey players we love, they just never give you any good, interviews, But Holik, a lot of times, would tell you, what was going on with the team that was right and wrong. And because he said that because he saw it, he was out there being a little general. I liked Holik so much, and I don't know, man. Is he, represented well in NHL today? Are there a lot of other Holiks out there? I don't think so.
I don't think. Like I said, I would attribute him a little bit more, like you said, Miles Wood. I would think a little bit of Timo Meyer in the sense of just that big forward, that big. He was a centerman, but. A guy that can just clear space, had a hell of a shot, big, heavy shot. I wonder
if Timo doesn't play a little more with his heart than his head, that Holik did. Holik was all head. You notice that? Yes. And it's not to say that he didn't have heart. He had fight, but he was at work. Yeah. Timo Meyer seems like a little more of an emotional player.
Timo.
I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe a cross between a Claude Lemieux and Bobby Holik kind of style in a sense. Let's hope. We will get to watch him all year this year. Let's hope that he's all those things.
Yeah, he seems to have a lot of passion. I'm excited about seeing him this year.
All right. Who do you think the last guy is?
Oh, boy. So the last guy, we're not talking from any particular era, or is that from the 90?
No, it's from any particular.
Because I think all these guys had the '95 team in common, right?
And this last one does have the '95 team in common. What, Tony?
Elias. He played on the '95 team, but he didn't win a cup that year with them. But yes,
yep,
you're right.
It is Elias.
Yeah, that's dead on correct. I mean, so smart. Yeah, that's absolutely a great answer there, Elias.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too many eras of hockey that Patrick Elias couldn't have been successful in. I really don't. I mean, he was just that kind of player. And the thing about Elias that I think a lot of people don't realize, maybe it's why he doesn't get all the fanfare that a guy of his caliber should get. Here's a dude that was asked to play a completely different way than what he was really comfortable playing.
Absolutely.
I mean, here's a dude that had
he scored
like
with so much flair, like you would think he was Jack Hughes when he started his career in professional hockey. When he came to the Devils, you're right. They gave him a totally different assignment.
Yep, and he did it. And he did it well. And he did it, and he never complained about it. He never said, you know what, my next contract, I'm going to go to Detroit, or I'm going to go to Tampa. I'm going to go to some place that's just going to let me light it up. No,
he took pride in it. He took pride in being a two-way player, which people don't understand how huge that is when you're talking about a supremely talented player. Like, think about if you ever watch kids sports, even what happens with the guys who have like the guys or girls on the team out there who have like that natural skill. Usually they don't work as hard, and usually they're like, I can do all the scoring, so I don't have to do that stuff. They kind of have that chip on their shoulder. And, to be a professional athlete, you have to come down to reality a little bit. And when it came to Elias, he was not a prima donna at all. He said, I take pride in that game of being a two-way player. And, I mean, that a huge reason the Devils were successful.
And Elias took pride in the jersey, too, because I know we've talked about it a few times with him. When he was doing the whole contract with Lou, he was throwing everything to stay with the Devils. I mean, he even said,
very true.
Did the Ranger thing where the Rangers offered him a contract, and I heard he knew he wasn't going to go there, but he brought it to Lou and said, "Listen, man, he wanted to be a Devil." I've seen it. Like, I went to some Devils games out here in Europe when he's there. Like, he is kind of like how Marty Brodeur is kind of like that Devil symbol. Well, Elias is in that same level.
Yeah.
He's kind of a spokesman for the team.
Yeah, a huge talent.
Yeah, he was amazing, wasn't he? I mean, last game, he scored a goal with under a minute left, I believe it was, or it was just perfect. It was like when Jeter got the final hit, it was just.
And that he was a Devil for the entire career.
Yep.
Turn on.
Absolutely.
I got a bit of an echo. I'm curious though. Name one player that you guys think would fit in today's NHL that wasn't on that list.
Ooh, okay. All right. This is a tough one.
I'm going to say Claude Lemieux right away.
Oh, that's a great one, Tone. I think you're 100% right. I mean, look at this past playoffs.
Yeah.
In that playoffs, you throw Claude Lemieux on any of those teams that were in the tougher series, it might have gone the other way because he was that impactful in the playoffs, and his style of play is what wins cups. Like, he was amazing to be like such a playoff specialist like that.
Agitator, but just he knew how to do it to just a level in certain games.
He took it past that a little bit sometimes.
Most of those games when he did that, he knew that this was a game that we can when he punched Brett Lindros in the face on the bench. I mean, stuff like that. He kind of calculated, I think, but he was. I mean, I felt like he just fit so well, and I think he would fit with the players today. He has that edge. He's a big-time player, and just Claude Lemieux. It just seems like he can adapt too.
That's a great answer. I think I would choose Scott Stevens. Scott Stevens is usually if you know Devils fans and you're not a Devil fan, you might be like, dude, ever shut up about Scott Stevens? They're like, it seems like an obvious answer from a Devils fan just to be a homer. But let's think about this for a second. I'm not being a homer.
But remember, he can't hit people like he used to now.
Well, honestly, that's what I'm trying to say. He was known as very responsible, but not just responsible, like beyond that. Like, you go try to come over the blue line and Scott Stevens will take your head off. That was not the only way this man could play. So, he came to us, much like Elias, was asked to change his game up big time, right? And I think we touched on this a little bit with Driver as a defenseman. Like some of these defensemen come in as stay-at-home defensemen, and then if they evolve to play a game kind of like Stevens, it's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? That's kind of what they were. And you look at some of the other types like Stevens, he was lighting the lamp like crazy. He was leading his teams in scoring coming up through his young career, and he totally changed because he bought into a system. Not only that, he became the kingpin of that system. So, I mean, like, he could do that for your team is what I'm saying. Now, they say the NHL has changed. He can't do that anymore. First of all, he has a huge skill set, and there's no reason he can't play as the scoring defenseman and then be responsible in the playoffs. He would be sick in this league because he'd make everybody happy. He only toned it down for the Devils. He wouldn't have to tone it down if the league was like today.
Right. Here's a guy that he played on the power play for a lot of his career. Not so much with the Devils, but he was mostly on the PK. But
he would tear this league up. Any
place that you put Scott Stevens, he succeeded.
He didn't only hit people. If you were just a regular NHL around, like you only knew a little bit, you might be like, oh, he just hit people. No, he didn't, dude. He was like
drafted him for that draft. I thought of his point production too. I'm like, okay, you're going to put him back there in the defense.
Yes.
I don't know if I was to push back against anybody that you guys said so far. I would push back a little bit on Claude Lemieux because I don't know if Claude Lemieux would be able to do the things that made him successful in this NHL.
I see your point, and you know what? If we're going to go that way, Holik maybe factors too, because there was a certain amount of clutching and grabbing that was part of his game. But these were very smart players. You know what was great about Claude Lemieux? He knew where that line was, and he was so he did not get your team hurt with the officials. If let's look at the beginning of the Devils' playoff run this year. Wood was all over the place trying to play super zealous. He hurt his team with penalties, and he got benched. Yeah. Claude Lemieux ain't ever going to do that to you, and he would get away with shit that might make the media and other teams mad, but he got away with it. And so I feel like he would follow that line.
Dan had another guy, too, I wonder about. Well, go ahead. Sorry, Chris. Dan had another guy on his defense. I believe you had him, Dan. I believe can actually fit into the end. We just talked about him in the article you read. Oh, no, we didn't. Niedermeyer. I think Niedermeyer could adapt into the league today. I definitely do.
Niedermeyer?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. I think that goes
a given.
I think
that's a given.
I think he could adapt fine.
Was he not on this list?
No.
You know what's so funny? I in my mind, when we were talking about Driver, I feel like obviously we're talking about Niedermeyer too, because
I think we're talking
Niedermeyer is the man.
More underrated guys, like a guy like Scott Niedermeyer, Norris Trophy candidate every fucking year if he's in the league right now.
Yeah.
Brian Leach, you know what I mean? Like those dudes.
Maybe in much the same way Stevens then. What I'm going on about Stevens, I probably am not thinking, hey, that's not so underrated. I hope. I mean, who knows the way the national media looks at the Devils.
One guy I think of, you go back to look at those teams, who I think could be very, very good in this NHL is also Jason Arnott. The way that Arnott played, big centerman, very skilled. I loved Jason Arnott when he was with this team, and I think he could very well guys like Alex McGillney, things like Parisi, who's still in the league, but
obviously.
These guys are all going to be good no matter what. I liked it, but like how much of the changing of the game, like you say, Holik, Lemieux, how it is now, would they have been as? That's interesting. Would they have been as?
It is.
I think they'd be fantastic players.
Right.
But would they be as productive as far as their roles, right? What they're known for? Would they be able to do those things?
It's a great question.
That wouldn't make it now. All the guys.
Well, that's I was just thinking about, Tony. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
This is like asking you where that line is, because we're talking about maybe a guy is there, he's on the line or not. But maybe we're trying to be more polite, or whoever's writing this article. There are some that you notice this guy would never play in the NHL today. And it's almost like not nice to say it, I guess, but we kind of know who some of those players are. Yeah. They're the guys who really their only job was to fight. We had a bunch of guys in that era. Yeah. That's their job was to come in and fight. They're your guys who were your stay-at-home defensemen who could be responsible, but you asked zero goal production for because they would almost never get a point.
And that was a much more loyal time of the inning where you had a guy for 10 years.
Well, it was just a different character of the team too. Now the way they grow players and the caliber of defensemen that they use in a game, those guys just wouldn't make it. There's a whole bunch of them.
we go to the guy that we all love, that we all still talk about to this day, but I do not think if Ken Danico is 19 years old, I don't think Ken Danico is making it to this NHL.
It's
and
possible.
If he does,
yeah, but
if he does, I don't know how successful he's going to be.
To play literally Mr. Devil's Advocate here, and I'm totally with you, by the way, but, like, to be honest, we're talking about elite athletes who ended up playing, like, the less athletic roles, in a way. The truth is, to get to that level and be one of the least athletic of the active defensemen at NHL, you're pretty friggin' athletic. So my point being, somebody like Ken Danico might say, look, I saw opportunity. This game needed a guy to do X, Y, and Z, and I did it. Very similar to the way, like Scott Stevens changed his game to be with the Devils.
Sure.
He might have said, I changed my game to be successful in NHL. If I had to play a different way, I think I could have done it. Maybe, but there's no way that playing the way he did then is he going to be able to play today.
Right. And you're right. I mean, yes, they are fantastic athletes, and they probably could mold
just
their
to
game
take the personal aspect out of this.
Sure.
We're just talking about the style of play they play.
Exactly.
Right.
Not. I mean, yes, very well. He was skilled enough that maybe, he, in this day and age, asked to play a different role. He does it. He does it very well. But going off of his body of work of what we saw him play in the style that he played back then,
which is kind of the opposite that I said with Claude Lemieux. So I was making excuses for him. I get your point then, guys, because Claude Lemieux, he definitely knew where that line was. And I think today he probably would play it, but he didn't. Right. The style of play he played was over the line. And if Claude Lemieux couldn't learn, which I highly doubt, he would be in the box the entire game, every game, for the way he played. Too. But there's no way he wouldn't have changed his game. Now it's hard to say that with some of the things that are a little bit more dynamic and athletic. So, like, we'll never know if Ken Danico could put up 60 goals a year, right? It's just never going to know that.
I think we kind of know that.
No, but I'm just saying, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just there's no reason to believe he would.
Sure.
What I thought was, I was listening to something with Claude Lemieux, I think it was last year, and he was saying that Jocelyn Lemieux, his brother, was actually a better player than him. Yeah. But he just did better. I mean, that's amazing. He's like, no, he was like much more skilled than me.
We had Jocelyn for a little while too.
Yes. Yep.
And I would have taken Jocelyn. I would have taken Claude, and in no way, shape, or form would I take his fucking son. I'm sorry, but bro, Brandon Lemieux.
Brandon's with Carolina now, I believe. Right?
Yeah, and I don't understand that pickup. I don't understand why they got him. I don't like Brandon Lemieux. I think he's a cancer in the fucking locker room, and I think it's going to be an issue. And Carolina just signed Tony DeAngelo to 1 year. So I'm guessing they are not in the running for Erik Karlsson now, right? Because, I mean, why would you sign DeAngelo if you're still looking for Karlsson? And Karlsson now
over the cap, Chris. I mean,
that?
Some of these teams are so jacked over the cap. Like Toronto's over $6 billion still, and they signed Samsonov for a year.
Oh, Toronto did?
Yeah, they picked him up for a year at 3.
I know that they were kind of far away on numbers. I think I heard that like
3.5.
Toronto was offering him like 2. He wanted almost 5, and then they were going to go to arbitration, so they ended up settling it.
I think it was 3.5. Yeah.
3.5. Yeah. I'm real curious to see what happens with Jeremy Swayman and his arbitration, and if that's even going to go there, because I think all the arbitration hearings are this week, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so
I wonder, what do you think is better for the Devils? He gets like the crappiest contract in this arbitration, so that he's more likely to come to the Devils and come to the Devils affordably, or is that like he gets a contract that like is, I mean, is that just like an obvious answer for the Devils, or what?
I mean, if you can get him and afford him, I would say, especially with all this uncertainty about what they're going to do with Akira Schmid, I mean, I said it on the last show, Jeremy Swayman is the guy. I would love to have Swayman and Schmid, or even Swayman and Vanacek this year, but we have to do something with goaltending at the end of this year either way. So we don't have any, Schmid and Vanacek are coming into their last years of their contracts.
Right.
What direction are we going to...
When you say we have to do something, we might re-sign them if the year goes great. That's one of the possibilities. But we're making moves one way or the other. We're going into new contracts.
One way or another, something with goalies at the end of this year. Has to
new contracts for these guys or somebody else.
Jeremy Swayman's getting under $1 million a year this year, right now with Boston. So if he wants, let's say, $3 million a year, which I think is a fucking bargain. And if Boston doesn't want to pay him that, or the arbitrator comes in at $2 million, and Jeremy Swayman says, "No, I'm not going to take it," then you can sign him maybe, and maybe you can get him for 3 years, lock him up for a long term, and you can eventually go with a Swayman-Schmid tandem. Yeah. I think that is a recipe to win some cups.
How much do you think that is likely that he'll get?
I don't know what he's asking for. I know he was under $1 million, so I mean, what? Even if you gave the guy, $3 million, I think it's a huge pay raise for him.
I want them to call me first. They should call me first before they pay anyone $3 million. I'll do it for less.
How much?
Put that up. 2.5 what?
Million.
Oh, I'll do it for 2.5 right now.
2.5.
Yeah. I don't need a lot of money to play in NHL. Just give me a shot. I also say the same thing when I go to the hospitals and talk to the surgeons. I know I can do this if you just give me a chance. You know what I mean? Like, catch me if you can.
There's YouTube videos.
You just have confidence. You fake it till you make it. Incision, scalpel. You fake it till you make it, and then I think you just from trying, I would get good at it.
I think you would. You would. First, you just give me the general location of the appendix. I'll do the rest. And
you know what? I'm pretty confident. If I feel around, I'm going to get a good feeling about where it is.
I'll tell you guys, though,
it's going to feel like something, and I'll be pressing it, and I'll feel like that must be the appendix right there.
If that hurts, I'm just going to take it out.
I don't know how much.
Show me where. Wait, before I put you out, show me where it hurts. Just point.
Right. My wife a whole day of operating on people. My wife comes home from a small, she's a pediatrician.
Oh yeah.
So she's a child surgeon. She comes home.
Wow.
Does it, man? She leaves it all there. I'm like, and sometimes I have to tell her. I'm like, don't tell me the stories.
So I think I can do this even more after hearing that, because your wife picked you. So if she can do surgery, I can do surgery. I'm telling you that right now. I picked you as a friend. She picked you as a husband, and she can do surgery. I can do surgery.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. Yeah. I don't know how they do it, though.
Dan knows. He's over your mail order bride wife. Dan knows he could do the surgery over her.
Now, don't he qualify for a mail order bride situation? Because if he did, it's like COD, because he arrived at her door.
Yeah, exactly, right?
She got a mail order, whatever you are.
That's great, dude. I have to meet her.
I need a mail order, Tony.
Awesome.
We have to meet. I'm really excited.
I met her. I mean, not that but she was buying T-shirts from my band.
So yeah.
Yeah, like almost like now it's like 18 years ago. We became friends, and then now we got little Rugrats and stuff.
I just picture the pediatrician who's going to operate my kids, and the sound coming out of her AirPods as she goes towards surgery is your band, and I'm like, wait a second, stop! The surgery cannot go on.
I'll do it myself.
I can do it cheaper.
So I can't blame you for that. But, you guys see that Patrice Bergeron retired? Finally, he announced he retired.
He did. Oh wow! Yes. Congrats!
I didn't know that. I know that they were talking about it, and that is some of the best news ever.
Yeah, because somebody might make his way into an award situation that he's always been blocked out. Right?
Yeah, I think the Selkies from here on out are going to be, Heishers to lose.
Same team, right? 19 years with Boston. I mean, I always respect the guy that stays with the same team these days.
Yeah.
Look, Patrice Bergeron maybe will go down. No, not maybe. Definitely will go down in history. Top 3 or 4 Boston Bruins of all time. I mean, he's that fucking great.
He really is. But I hadn't thought about that.
Unfortunately, I think now with him gone, and with Krejci gone, and with Taylor Hall gone, and losing Bertuzzi, losing all the guys that they lost, this team is going to be a fucking shell of itself. And if I'm Jeremy Swayman, I maybe don't want to fucking play in Boston again next year.
Here's a question for you, Chris, speaking of Boston.
Get a life raft.
Do you think that what hurt them was adding the additions? Do you think that if they would have they were flying right through the seasons, do you think altering the chemistry on that team towards the end of that year, because they made a lot of fucking changes?
They still kept winning, though. They won, they didn't slow down winning the whole way to the playoffs. They really just shit the bed on the playoffs, but maybe you're right. I don't know.
I think I think maybe that could be it. I think that probably was what I think kind of ended up being Toronto's downfall in the end. Was too much of the tweaking and too much fucking around with the lineup.
They changed their whole team. I mean,
and they did it again this offseason. So we don't even know what Bruins.
Rangers probably lost by adding.
The Rangers most definitely lost by adding. I think if the Rangers don't go out and get Tarasenko and Kane, they're a better team going into the playoffs.
I don't know what they do. I actually fear that team more than the one we played.
And the fact that you got Tarasenko should have taken you completely out of the conversation for Kane. Because, I mean, you don't need two of the same players. And, you know, the Ranger fans are always pissing and moaning about, you know, Lafreniere and Kakko and, oh, these young guys aren't what they're supposed to be. Like, they haven't been given a chance. Like, here's the thing with the Devils, what we've done with our young superstars, our Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier. We threw them out there. Like, even, you're going to have some growing pains. We're not going to be very good, but you're going to learn, and you're going to learn at the NHL level, at the first or second line. You are going to get the lion's share of ice time. You're the future of this team. Rangers have never done that with those guys. They've always kind of kept them on the bottom six, and then they get these Tarasenko, Kane. Like, at some point, if you're like the Kakkos and the Lafrenieres, you're kind of like, when's it going to be my fucking turn? Because I've been in the league 5 years now.
You get an exit. And that's what always happens with this team. They hardly ever home grow a serious star. And that's why. That's why they're calling in old stars. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You better call in the old star because you never prepped the young star to take over. You've just been like keeping it in the background.
Even when they sent out all those fucking emails to all their season ticket holders years ago saying that, you know, we are going through a rebuild, that we are going to change this team around, they still, like, the next year they got Panarin, and they got, like, that's not a rebuild.
Yeah, because I think all the people were like, the media was like, this is unacceptable. You know, they get a lot of, like, business assholes, like, this is unacceptable. This organization has to be better now. And it's like, you know, maybe you give a great player 5 years to adjust and then watch what happens instead of, like, just giving him no ice time. And, you know, all the fans, I hear them all the time, like, oh, we got to get rid this. He started out good, but he's like, oh, he's like in his third year with your team. Are you going to let that team develop or what? This guy was a rookie 3 years ago. What are you doing? But they don't do that. No.
They'll give up, and they'll go for the nice, shiny object, and they will try and get that. And look, they're going to do it again this year. And I just think that the Rangers are a team now. I will always put them in the realm of a competitor because of Igor Shesterkin. He's just that good.
Well, that's what breaks the mold for this team. And they, for some reason, always have a horseshoe up their ass with goaltenders. Yeah. And Shesterkin might be the best of them.
I agree.
Their fans have to be a little pissed off, though, a little worried. You look at, I saw a thing the other day. It had like the top 10 players under 25, and the Devils had 3 of them on there: Bratt, Hischier, and Hughes. There was no rank. I mean, they have to be. Those fans have to be looking. They could say what they want. I know they always say, "Oh, this Jack Hughes, man," but they have to be like, "Shit, this Devil team is built for the next 8 years."
I feel for Shesterkin, just like I did Lundqvist and Lundqvist and all them, because like they got so lucky, and it's kind of the easiest thing, all things being equal, to build your team around a goaltender. You get a Hall of Fame goaltender in maybe 3 eras, and you don't know how to build a team around them at all, ever. Like, they squander these, of any one player you can have that could, you know, change your franchise's destiny. It's probably the goaltender. They've been lucky there, but yet still can't build a team.
He's got 2 years left on his contract, I think, right? So, I mean...
Yeah, but you know what? The Rangers will throw so much money at him, he ain't going to go anywhere. Yeah. But,
maybe,
you know, the Rangers...
Maybe. We'll see what matters to him. I don't know, because Lundqvist, he wanted to stay in New York. He was a New York guy. Is Shesterkin like that? I don't know. I don't really know about Shesterkin. Is he loving the New York life?
And how much does he want to win a cup? That's really what it comes down to. You know? How much do you want to win a cup? Because, I mean... If the Rangers don't win a cup this year, I do think their window gets considerably smaller. And even this year, like, you look at just lineups, and it's like, can the Rangers skate with the Devils?
Yeah, I was thinking
Can they skate with the fucking Buffalo Sabres? Can they skate with the Toronto Maple Leafs?
There's a lot of fast teams out there, and they're not one of them. No, I totally get it. I was thinking about Shesterkin the other day, like, what's going to motivate him more? Because you said, like, how much about it you won a cup, and I was like, he's a Russian guy, so like, if you're a Russian dude, a lot of these players have been in the past kind of more motivated by money, which might tell you want to stay with the Rangers. But on the other hand, I know one of his idols is another great Russian, Vasilevsky. He got the cups too. I think he made, like, cups a serious thing around Russian goaltenders. I'm not saying they never wanted to win a cup; they always wanted to dominate and be the best. But I think, like, Vasilevsky strung a ton together and is one of the first Russian goaltenders to do that. of cups. And I think Shesterkin's probably like measured himself against him a little bit. Like, can I be Vasilevsky of my era? You know, I don't think he could do that with the Rangers. So if he thinks he can't do that with the Rangers, now he might want to go. So we will find out more about him.
Yeah, I think next year the offseason is going to be really interesting with some of these guys because, you know, it's no longer when a guy's contract is up. It's the year before. So all it takes is Igor
Shesterkin. It's like politics now. The election starts a year early.
Exactly. All it's going to take is Igor Shesterkin to say, I don't know if I'm going to sign an extension with the New York Rangers after next year, and then forget it. Everyone will be like, trade him for this guy, trade him for that, and it'll turn into a whole fucking shit show. But I think... look, the Devils, I think right now on paper, not many teams in the Eastern Conference, I think, can touch us. But yeah, the goaltending thing does worry me. I would love to get our hands on a really good young goalie like Jeremy Swayman. I just think the idea of Swayman and Schmid over the course of the next maybe 4 or 5 years would be a fantastic tandem.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with like put it in a holding pattern if we don't find out we're going to miss out on a player who would really fit the bill great, and just seeing, because I think, the Devils, you're right, on paper are such a damn good team that if they gel and adopt a team strategy that involves good defense, I think that both of these guys can carry us not just through the regular season. I think they can carry us deep into the playoffs to a cup. I really like our guys. I'm not saying you don't go after them if you get a better guy on paper, but these guys are more than serviceable, so I'm okay with that. I'm not like desperately we got to. No, we've got some. I'm okay with this.
I believe Vanacek bounce back. I really do. I mean, Vanacek. He was the reason we're in the playoffs. He's a big reason to that last year. I mean,
look, you can't take anything away from what Vanacek did last year. 18 one-goal wins. The guy was clutch. He played fantastic for us. And I've said it. I don't put the playoffs on one goalie. Both goalies. Neither one of them played up to par.
Definitely.
The horseshoe up Schmid's ass during the Rangers series, that was fantastic, but it went away in the second series. Now, before we finish up, let me just ask you guys, would you rather have, we'll say that Vanacek is going to be gone after this year, so let's just take Vanacek out of the equation.
Which he might not be, but for the sake of argument, let's do it.
For the sake of this conversation.
Right.
Akira Schmid is your number one, number two goalie, probably number two. Would you rather 5 years of Connor Hellebuyck at $9 million a year for the next 5 years as your starting goalie, or Jeremy Swayman for $3 to $4 million a year for the next 5 years?
Swayman.
Who would you rather have? It's 5 years, either one.
Swayman.
Dan?
Why would I just want to know? Why do you feel that way, Tony?
Money related.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering. I thought that's what you meant. So I just feel like I'm unable to answer this question without knowing like the financial needs of the Devils, not only this year, which I truly don't understand 100%, and future years. So you're talking about an extra $1 million or $2 million a year? Is Hellebuyck worth
3 to 9? I think.
No, I mean you're talking. Let's say you gave Swayman $4 million a year, and Hellebuyck wants $9 million.
Okay,
so
it's an extra $25 million, but it's another $5 million a year. What is $5 million a year? Can you buy with that? You're going to cost yourself an entire good player.
Yeah.
And that's something to think
Tyler
about.
Toffoli-esque player, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so you got to ask yourself, can I do that? Do I have that kind of depth to absorb that? It's borderline. We have that kind of depth, but it does put you a little bit more all in, right? Because now you have kind of killed your pipeline. Yeah. Right, you're accelerating everybody's schedule down the pipeline and hoping for the best because you can't afford that other player. You're just going to bring up the guys you own more cheaply. You know what I'm saying?
Now, what if all things being equal, take the salary away, Hellebuyck or Swayman?
I don't think they're going to play unless you pay them, Chris.
Let's say that they'll do it out of the kindness of their hearts. Let's say they do it for Skittles and foot massages.
Oh, now I don't have to give these foot massages, do I?
No, but you do have to get the Skittles.
I mean, I'll buy them each a pack of Skittles to get, for the sake of argument, of course.
And not the sour ones. They don't like those.
Well, then fuck it. That's it. I put my foot down.
Just fucking get the regular Skittles. Don't be an asshole. Just don't get the fucking sour ones. I don't understand why this is such a problem for you.
I'm going to give them Sour Patch Kids, and they're going to like it.
No, so Hellebuyck or
my team.
Swayman, all things being equal.
Yeah, Hellebuyck. Yeah, I think Hellebuck is a bigger name, and he's the way to go with that. So, but like if Swayman lives up to his potential, we might look back and go, you were wrong, because Swayman's got a bigger career ahead of him. Not a bigger career; he's got more years ahead of him. So, he may end up being the when all is said and done, the better goaltender. No way to really know, Chris. But right now, if you want to win now over the next 5 years, I think Hellebuck has shown you more with that. And don't forget this: neither one of them have won a cup.
No,
obviously.
No.
So all these moves that were like our guys, we didn't get deep into playoffs. How deep has Hellebuck been? It's something to consider. I think that Hellebuck is a class of goaltender above our guys, but we're talking about all these guys are really close. Let's see if we get a good team. Because I look back to the playoffs where it fell apart, and I heard what you said about the goaltending. You're not wrong, but I would be more concerned if the rest of the team was just chugging along playing well, and that those guys took a shit. That's not what happened. That was a different team in front of them. And I don't know which goaltender out there was going to bail him out. I don't know if Shesterkin bails him out on that series. I really don't know.
I am very interested to see, because it does look like we are going to go forward with those two dudes, unless something changes in the next month or two. But it does look, as of right now, that those are. I'm very interested to see how they work these two guys, because I want to see Schmid be.
It's going to be interesting the whole way through. We're to find out what we have for the playoffs, especially. Right?
That's let's see Schmid for a whole year, this sent down, back up, all over the fucking place.
That's going to be a real disappointment to see him miss out knowing more about him earlier. To have him take him off the table, because when they took him off the table last year, it was like okay, but then they brought him back in. So it's one thing if they are going to go make a call like. Akira Schmid's going to go back down to Utica. We're riding Blackwood and as the backup because we know better. And I don't agree with the call, but then they didn't. Then they oh shit, we were wrong. So honestly, for a team that has Marty Brodeur as part of the front office, I'm kind of surprised at how the goaltending was handled. In fact, if I was to knock one thing about this team right now, from the management, coaching on down, it would really be how they misread the goalie situation last year. And
I agree.
They showed so much stick to Blackwood that he wasted time. So what instead of beating that dead horse, what I'm just trying to say is I don't want to see them do that again. And I don't know what we're going to get this year.
I know.
Are we going to even have Schmid play 50-50 of the NHL games? I don't even know.
It seems like the one place where we just don't have a clear path of what direction we were going in. So that's going to be kind of interesting. And so, I mean, is there anything else that you guys would like to discuss tonight?
Chris is going to. I know you're a football guy too. I just wanted to.
I am a football guy.
Yeah, today, the Raiders picked up Marcus Peters, and actually, they picked up a few guys today, but. What's Garoppolo passed his physical, so I gotta say, man, I'm feeling a little more excited than I was. Jacobs, of course, was a no-show today, but that's expected. I'm hoping that he won.
Jacobs is not going to be playing for you this year. Jacobs was real quick. I know I don't want to get too much into it, but first of all, that I'm so fucking tired of hearing everyone in the NFL national media world talking about the devaluation of the running back position and how these running backs are not making enough money.
I hadn't heard this is a thing.
This is a thing. So you have Saquon Barkley for the Giants. He was offered. Now the Giants offered him, I believe, a 3 or 4 year deal at $13 million a year. He didn't take it. That deal then got taken off the table, and they wanted to throw the franchise tag on him. Him and Josh Jacobs for the Raiders were both going to get franchise tag. Now, Dan, I don't know. Do you know what a franchise tag is?
I'm assuming it's not a good thing, and I hope they're not doing it with where they tranquilize him and then they put a tag on his ear, because that sounds bad.
And then they set him
really
off bad. They send them off into the wild, and then if they come back around, then they know who they are.
Talk about dehumanizing your players. It's not a good idea. It's a bad thing.
So what you do with the franchise tag is each team
I can see Jerry Jones doing this with a fucking safari hat on,
Right.
He's the kind of motherfucker who would love that.
Tag
his players.
Elliott, sends his ass off into the fucking woods.
I don't like that. I think it's distasteful.
So what the franchise tag is, so each team is allowed to give a player a franchise tag. Now each position has a different amount on the franchise tag, and it's the top 5% of what is made in that position. So if you are a running back, and you get franchise tagged.
That's kind of neat.
And you sign the franchise tag, you'll make $10 million. Now, that money is 100. It has pros and cons. The pro is for
You're
the
playing
player.
the stock market a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
The pro is for the player. It's 100% guaranteed. So if that person
I thought you were going to say
blows out
tax-free. It's 100%
No, it's
tax-free.
not. In some states it is.
Maybe.
But so if you blow out your knee in training camp, you get
Right.
that full $10 million no matter what. Now, the con is more so towards management because you have to have that entire amount towards your salary cap that year. So I can't take $10 million and just move it around and make myself have more salary cap by moving money around. That money has to go towards the
Who
cap
invented
year.
this crazy scheme?
It was all part of the collective bargaining agreement that they had done a couple of years
So
ago. Now,
the players wanted it? Players like it better than owners is what you're telling me?
well, seems to me like really owners are the only ones that really do like this.
Oh, okay. So wait, why do the owners
basically-
like it again? Tell me.
Well, if a guy wants a long-term deal, and let's say
Yeah.
that, so if you're playing for the Jets and you want a long-term deal, your contract is up,
Right.
and they won't, you can't work out a deal. They can
Yes.
slap a franchise tag on you and make you basically sign that and play for them for 5% of whatever that money is.
Oh.
So.
Oh, wow.
Now,
So
if you
this is
don't-
like you don't get to negotiate anymore. Fuck
No,
you.
there's no negotiating after that.
That's
You know,
and
once
they're
franchise-
basically signing this deal with the NFL that if a team pulls its franchise, it's like almost like a card game. I franchise tag you, like flip
Yeah.
that card out. Now
And-
all of a sudden the rules that used to apply don't apply, and you're basically fucked. And you, as a player, you got to take. There's not a real good upside unless you have a great year, is what you're saying.
If you don't sign the franchise tag, you basically
Right.
just don't play, and
Wow.
that's it. You won't get that money. Now, if you sign the
Isn't
tag,
that like
you gotta play.
collusion? Isn't that like aren't all the teams in the league colluding against? Like, what do you mean you're not going to play? Like, you
Well,
know what
if
I mean?
you sit out, you just sit out. So if you like Josh Jacobs,
But they don't
is
have
probably,
to negotiate. Like they're supposed to negotiate to that point. You know what I'm saying?
But Chris, didn't Barkley sign today?
Oh, did he sign the?
Yeah, I think he did 1 year. Yeah, I think did a 1 year.
He signed the franchise tag.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's but Barkley, I felt like he was not being disrespected. I thought the Giants
Okay.
offered him very good money, $13 million a year. He didn't want it. Then he was saying, "Well, I'm not signing for the $10 million. I'm not going to sign the franchise tag. I'm 28% of their fucking offense.
He's like
I deserve
probably
more
like
money."
I feel like he's like screw this whole system is what he's doing.
Yeah,
He's like
the
basically
franchise-
saying I'm not even going to play the game at all. I don't honor the franchise tag.
Then he could just sit home and not get paid. But
Wow.
that never works. That never goes good.
Well, that's going to
You're
hurt
not-
him too. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, he's
that's
basically
never
ending his
gonna go.
career. So
And the problem is, like, the franchise tag is a lot like arbitration in hockey. When it happens, you might get that player for a year, but the relationship is fucking done.
Shitty.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
there is no relationship after this. So
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't like that for the players. I think that's kind of like bullshit terms for them. You know, like. I think it sounds pretty unfair. I'm not like this football guru. I know very little. I didn't even know this existed. I'm just saying, like, from a player management point of view, that is like, that's a pretty fucked system. Like, talk about not honoring an association, you know?
Right. And Barkley just did sign 1 year for $11 million. So he actually lost a couple of $1 million by not taking the original deal that he had. But he made $1 million more than the franchise tag. So I don't know. But the franchise tag does, it's fucked up. And I don't like it either. But there are a lot of players.
How often could they do that? How often could the NFL do this?
You can only franchise one player. I think the most you could franchise a player is twice in their career. And you
Per
can only
team,
do
or-
one player per team.
So, like, if
And
I
you
move
can
to
only do
another
that-
team, my next team can franchise tag me too?
I don't think so. I think it's only in your whole career.
It follows you around.
Yeah, like Kirk Cousins was franchise tagged twice in Washington. I do not think the Vikings can franchise tag him again.
You know,
But
Chris,
that could be
I can't remember,
huge,
but I
man.
think that happened
2
with
contracts?
I
Sorry,
think when
Tom.
the
Hang on,
Raiders,
what, Tony?
I think when the Raiders franchised Mack, that's when he took off. I think that's when they decided they got into it with him. I believe. I think I kind of have.
Yeah, it's never good. Like, the players don't like it, and it's the same with arbitration. It ruins the relationship all the way around.
Because you
But
got to prove why a guy's not worth that much money, and then you got to, obviously it gets a little insulting, and
Well, the franchise tag is too. It's like, if you're a guy who's you're not going to give it to schlubs. You're not going to give it to a fucking 4th rounder and give him 5% of the max dollars. So it's only, that's the thing, the difference
It's to
between that
retain
and
your top guys,
it's
right?
to retain your top guys, and even if it's just for for a year, and sometimes like guys
Right.
like Kirk Cousins got franchise tagged twice, and he was pissed both
would
times.
some owners and fans tell you, maybe even fans tell you, look, we like the franchise tags because otherwise these guys, as soon as they get hot, they're flying out of our city, and it sucks. Is that
It
the
happens
idea?
sometimes.
Is that who's
But-
liking this whole scenario?
I don't know what the reasoning behind the entire franchise tag is. Like, I really don't know what the purpose is. Like,
I almost feel like, honestly, it looks like it's a way of screwing some of the players out of money and nothing more.
It kind of seems like
and I don't
that.
like that because, like, the NFL makes crazy money. I know the players, when they look at, like, an average... I mean, I was just joking before. I'll play an NHL for $250. So the players, they're well compensated, don't get me wrong. But you still... I mean, what's fair is fair. Like, the owner's pulling so much money... And if you have a mechanism just to steal money out of your player's pocket when you have more than enough to run the league and then some, it's crazy to me.
And running backs are pissed off and upset because if you're a top running back, your market value has been depreciated enough to the point that, like, the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl with the 7th round running back out of Rutgers last year with Ivan Pacheco. He was a 7th round dude. He made league minimum, and that's where and teams are looking at this and they're saying we don't need an elite $15 million a year running back. We need a good offensive line and we need a solid, serviceable running back, and we can have him play for 2 or 3 years, and then we'll just draft another serviceable running back, and it's not right for running backs. And if my kid was just starting football and said, "Dad, I want to be a running back," I'd say, "No, running backs don't get paid. Be a cornerback."
That's crazy. Thinking back, previous decades, that was not the case. Running back was a star.
Those bell cow running backs are no longer there. Those Eric Dickersons, those fucking, Bo
Marcus
Jacksons.
These guys are
Marcus Allen dudes that would, get the rock 30, 35 times a fucking game and just crank out yards. That's not the game anymore.
And
it's a
style has
quarterback,
changed.
wide receiver league.
Chris,
It's all about points.
Shelley that they picked up. They just got a former Viking narrators. They brought him to camp yesterday.
Duke Shelley.
Yeah, Duke Shelley. How is he?
Duke Shelley played very well for the Vikings last year. He came off of the Chicago Bears practice squad, so we basically scooped him up because we had tons of injuries in our defensive backfield. And we got Duke Shelley. He's extremely undersized. I think he's only 5'7", 5'8", but the motherfucker he's got a lot of heart. Duke Shelley turned out at the end of last year to be a fan favorite in Minnesota. The fans loved him. He was a ton of fun. I actually was hoping that maybe we would sign him, but we have a lot of other DBs and stuff, so he ended up... You guys are going to like him. He plays with a ton of heart. You are going to love Duke Shelley. He's not going to make every play, but he's going to make enough of them that you're going to like him.
Cool.
So,
That's exciting.
But on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up. We'll tie this one off for tonight, and we'll get back.
Yeah.
We have a lot of stuff that we still want to talk about. I want to talk about the writer's strike and greed and stuff like that.
I was trying
That
to talk
might be
about
fun.
greed. Yeah.
I know, and that's why I figured we could piggyback it off of the next show, and we
And
could
Chris,
talk more
once a
about
week,
that.
Absolutely.
you got to give us some Netflix. I need to find a new show, so I will have to pick your guys' brains one of these nights because
On Netflix?
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on these days
I was
in
just
Netflix?
watching Beef,
All right.
the show called Beef, which was like,
Beef? I don't know it.
So
Kid Glenn
I did.
from Walking Dead.
I watched a movie the other night on Hulu when I got home. It's called Prey, Prey. It's a Predator movie.
Oh,
And I don't know if you guys heard about this. So it's a Predator movie set in like 1700 Cherokee Nation, old America, right?
Oh,
so it is the guy that directed it is the same dude that did I can't remember the other movie he did, but he did another really good movie. Anyway, I watched it the
Oppenheimer?
other
Was
night.
it Oppenheimer?
Is it a new movie?
Yes, it was Oppenheimer. Christopher something. No, I can't. I think his name was Chris actually in real life, but I can't remember the name of the the director. But I was like, I'm not a big Predator fan, but it looked kind of neat. I thought it was. Check it out. It was outstanding.
Well, that's
Dude,
great.
it was such a good freaking movie. The directing was fantastic. I loved it. So
It's
I wouldn't
on-
have guessed. That's good. I got to check
It's
it
on
out.
Hulu. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll check it
So
out.
yeah, a skilled Comanche warrior protects her tribe from a highly evolved alien predator that hunts humans for sports, fighting against wilderness, dangerous colonizers, and this mysterious creature to keep her people safe. Very good
Oh,
movie.
wow.
The director was Dan Trachtenberg. He also did... He did a couple
Oppenheimer, I think.
episodes of Stranger Things. He did 10 Cloverfield Lane. I don't know if you
Okay, I
guys saw that
remember
with
that.
John
Yeah,
Goodman.
yeah.
It was a really good movie. He did that. But yeah, that's what I watch. I'm not watching anything else right now.
All I keep on hearing about is this fucking Barbie movie. What is this shit? I mean,
My daughter saw it twice.
Really? Grown men or
we have not seen it. No, we're supposed to go do what is known now as Barbenheimer. So
Yeah.
I'm not nearly as cool as that sounds. My family and my kids want to do this, and I said sure. Now I was probably going to see Oppenheimer anyway. You know, I do watch most Christopher Nolan movies. Some of them kind of annoy me, but some of them are pretty good actually. And you know, Barbie I knew nothing about, but it has now, as everybody knows, become a thing that these movies are tied together because I guess people think it's kind of funny because one is allegedly super serious and the other one's about atomic warfare. And so, and everybody's been doing that same stupid joke or some version of it.
I do want to see
Barbenheimer rolled
Oppenheimer.
out. Yeah,
Exactly. Like I said, my daughter
Excellent.
My daughter did Barbie twice and absolutely fucking loved it. And yeah, so
Now Oppenheimer, I saw this thing. He shot on like this big film, 70 millimeter or whatever.
Right.
And if you really want to see it the way it's shot, you got to go to IMAX, but not even a normal IMAX. You got to go to a special IMAX,
like a planetarian IMAX.
That'll show you a 70 millimeter like aspect ratio, which is like almost square or some shit. Whatever he shot it on. I saw like a video of like the reels of film. It was like massive and shit. I'm always a sucker for that kind of shit. I like to want to see that. And
I would love to see Oppenheimer at the IMAX.
Yeah,
Excellent. I mean,
We got to find the right IMAX though.
I do like. I remember seeing Hateful Eight in the theater that would show you the film cut version of it versus the one you get on DVD. And like I sought that out, and I'm like, this is beautiful. And sometimes I wonder if I just fool myself because you're in there now looking for like, okay, does this look better? And now you start noticing like, oh, this is great. This looks great. And just because you're being very picky about it, you know.
Tonight I am watching after dinner. I'm going to watch Licorice Pizza. I haven't seen Licorice Pizza yet.
Oh, dude, love that. Love that.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna check it out.
Movie.
Licorice
It's a
Pizza.
P.T. Anderson movie.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid is in that. Did you know
Is
that?
it really? No,
Yeah,
I don't
and
know. I've been wanting to see it, but I haven't checked it out. And I saw
anybody
that
who knows great movies like Twister and others knows Philip Seymour Hoffman, right? Now, of course, he did a lot of P.T. Anderson movies like Boogie Nights and stuff.
Sure.
He was in a lot of movies, and anybody doesn't know he's been gone for a while. He passed away. I don't know how many years ago, but I was shocked when I watched Licorice Pizza. Look out, you'll see like, holy shit, that kid looks like his father too. It's such a good movie. Unknown cast. I really liked it a lot. The principal girl, her whole family is her real family. And
really?
Yes, it's very cool. They're all like unknown, whatever, you know. And of course, you know, Bradley Cooper's there, and he's got a great role. He's not an unknown, of course, but I liked it a lot. Tell me what you think of it.
I will.
I gotta check this out now.
Yeah, we could talk about it on the next show. But guys, check us out. YouTube channel, anywhere you get podcasts. Check us out, Twitter account. Check out the teams. Let us know who drafted the best team, whose team sucks balls. We want to know these things. Drop us a line. Anything that you want to talk about in the off season, hockey related, devil related, movie related, doesn't matter. We're all just kind of trudging along until the road for 4 starts, and we can go and get our 4th Stanley Cup starting in October. So, guys, we are the Uncle Puckers. For Bobby, who's not here, Tony, Dan, I'm Chris. Thank you guys so much for checking us out, and we'll see you when we see you.
Pucks out.
It's Taco Tuesday.
I mean, now.
Everything is awful.
It's over, Johnny. It's over.